Before we start the video proper, I just want to apologise a little bit. There is a little bit of wind noise in this video. It's an extremely windy day. And I do have my best dead cat microphone muff on the microphone, but even so, it still creeps through at time to time. And the other thing is, there's an awful lot of background noise. Although most of the time I'm half a mile to 3/4 of a mile away from the M6 motorway, you can hear that constant drone all the way through the video. I'm afraid I can't do anything about that. They wouldn't let me close the M6 motorway. But before we get into the main body of the video, I just want to let you know this is a bit of a follow-up to a video I made a few weeks ago. I say a few weeks ago, it was probably about 3 months ago, around Christmas time. I mentioned that the Oxford Canal never used to terminate at Hawkesbury Junction, but carried on down to Longford. Well, in this video, we're going to try and find out a little bit more about that, and can we find any evidence to show that it was ever here. Well, hello there. You've joined me today, sat on the lock, or the stop lock, at the end of the Oxford Canal navigation. Well, when I say the end of the Oxford Canal navigation, of course I mean the end as it is today. Yes, as I say, the end as it is today. Used to travel another 1.5 miles approximately down to Longford. And today's quest is to see if we can actually find any of the old remnants of the canal. The junction here at Hawkesbury Junction onto the Coventry Canal never existed when the Oxford Canal was originally built. In fact, I believe the Oxford Canal actually opened before the Coventry Canal. Now, when the two canals ran parallel all the way down to Longford, the Oxford Canal was 7 inches higher than the Coventry Canal. Well, I believe the Coventry Canal probably thought this was a great way of getting water from the Oxford Canal for free, but of course the Oxford Canal had different thoughts on that. So although both ran down to Longford originally, there was not a join. First reason was the Oxford Canal was some 7 inches higher. Anyway, there was an Act of Parliament or something similar that made the Oxford Canal join the Coventry Canal, and the original junction was down at Longford, which seemed a bit silly to a lot of people. They'd have to go all the way down there and come all the way back up here following the canal. So although I cannot actually find really very much about this, I believe that this lock I'm sat on was actually opened in 1777 to drop the canal level by that 7 inches so it could join onto the Coventry Canal down at Longford. It wasn't until 1803 it was decided it would make more sense to put a junction here, 1.5 miles up the canal. So the Oxford Canal is 1.5 miles shorter than when it was originally constructed. The famous iron bridge here, which you can walk over the towpath, or was the towpath, or is still the towpath of the Coventry Canal, wasn't built until about 40 odd years later. I think it was built in, I've got the date now, so I don't know if there was actually another bridge there originally and then the iron bridge was constructed, or they had to come up around here, cross over the turnover bridge in the distance here. I'm not sure. Some of this history is just difficult to find out. Let's carry on, let's go for that walk down to Longford and see if we can find any remnants of that lost 1.5 miles of the Oxford Canal. It's blooming windy out here. And here we have where I'm guessing the canal used to continue. Now, of course, we have the facilities building there in the way. I think we can work out the alignment of the canal. It's basically following a straight line straight down through that building and the other side. So let's go and see what we can find on the other side. Well, as I have to walk past one of the most famous pubs on the network, the Greyhound here, I guess I should put a little short clip in about it. We now have here, of course, the very famous Greyhound pub. This gets absolutely packed in the summer months. Very popular, I believe great food, and I know they do some fine ales as well. But we're not there today, perhaps another day. We've got to assume that the canal came across the car park here. I see, it looks like they're rebuilding here also the new rubbish disposal. At the moment it's inside the facilities building, but it used to be here a while ago. So I'm hoping they're putting it back here now to make it a lot easier than trying to get through a door that doesn't want to open. Anyway, this would have been, I believe, the alignment of the canal. Let's see if we can find anything the other side of this. Well, let's have a look, see if we can see anything through the hedgerow here. Well, there is a divot in the ground there. It's not much, but I can definitely see the ground is lower. Let's see if we can get through to it and take a closer look. I'm not quite sure if the camera's actually picking this up, but there is definitely an indentation in the earthwork there. So one is assuming that's the original alignment of the canal. I'm going to come in again in this woods by the water point here, and I can definitely see here that there is definitely a slightly shallower point here. Look, you can definitely tell here this is definitely would have been, I'm guessing, but you can definitely see there's a curvature in the ground here. This must have been the original alignment. As I look back up here, there's a definite indentation there where I believe the canal must have run. Definitely see there's a little bit of a bank each side. See it over there, and again over here. So yes, I think we're definitely on the alignment of the old canal. This footbridge would not have been here then. And how do I know this footbridge wouldn't have been here then? Because it's got number 11A on it, which means it was added at a later date. Yes, the bridges would originally been numbered 1 to whatever, and any subsequent bridges added thereafter will have a suffix at the end. Sometimes you'll see bridge like 11A, 11B, 11C, because they've added 2 or 3 bridges in after the canal was originally built. As we look the other way again, we can see definitely a hollow in here where one has got to assume was where the canal originally ran. Well, this is even a bigger clue. Look here, we've got quite a hollow in here in amongst all these trees, but you'll remember it was over 200 years ago that this was closed and filled in. Well, as we reach this grassy area here, which is embanked up, as we can see, the road is now quite a lot lower than this grassy area. I believe that the canal ran right down the middle of here. No signs of it now, and my boat's on the Coventry Canal right there. I've just got back to my boat. Let's go down to the main road. Let's see if there's any signs of the old canal bridge. I don't think there is. What I can assume is probably that gap in the hedge there is roughly where the canal actually ran originally, which goes into Yeah, another little small car park. Well, once again, we've just come into another little parking area. I can't see any signs of the canal, but we'll take a closer look. Oh, we have the bridge there over the Coventry Canal, which is a single file bridge. I'm guessing the other bridge would have been around about here where those gates are. It's quite clear still, probably, well, pretty certain if we go down underneath the pylons there, look at it. It's a dead straight area going straight down through there. That is obviously the original alignment of the canal, but there's absolutely no sign of it anywhere. As we follow our route there from Sutton's Stop in the top right hand corner down to Longford, we can see that there's quite a gap between the Coventry Canal and where the housing development starts. Well, that's because I believe this is the alignment of the old Oxford Canal, and that property still belongs to the CRT. Hence, it has never been built on. And I believe the CRT do use it to dump dredging material on at times. Another reason why we can't find very much, I'm guessing. Well, I'm now standing on the towpath of the Coventry Canal, looking through the hedgerow here, and the ground is slightly higher the other side here, so that definitely leans towards that the Oxford Canal ran down from this piece of ground here. It was that 7 inches higher, and see if we can find any evidence as we carry on. This is me still carrying on walking down the towpath of the Coventry Canal. Once we look between the trees here, there's sort of a sign where there is a sort of a gap where, well, obviously the way the canal originally ran. Now we've got a dreaded 5G tower here, and behind these railings the M6 motorway. Of course, this canal was well out of use when the M6 motorway was built and was already filled in, so they had no problems putting the motorway across here. Well, quick look underneath the motorway bridge here, and the canal would have run somewhere just the other side of that fence in there. And as we look down the other way, you can tell that the motorway is definitely elevated down through here. Well, I've just come up the embankment just the other side of the bridge, the motorway bridge that is, and there definitely seems to be a dip in the ground here. Well, I keep poking my head through the bushes and there's just nothing to be seen. It's obviously 200 years of growth being filled in 200 years ago and just grown over. Just nothing here. What we do have here is where a tree came down around Christmas time. I actually cut a lot of this out when I came back up on the boat just after Christmas, and it was right across the towpath here, right into the canal, and I stopped my boat and I cut the towpath clear so people could get through. I could just about squeeze by with the boat the other side. I did actually pull it in to the edge a little bit. I couldn't get it out, it was too heavy, but I did make the passageway clear for boats and the passageway clear for pedestrians. I did take some of the firewood at the time. As you can see, there's not much left here now. There was a big hawthorn tree covered in ivy, and you can see just there where it broke and fell down from. It was quite an easy little walk in here from the towpath, so we'll have a quick look in here again. Well, you can't get very far. I think that's the alignment there. Once again, it's slightly lower there, the ground level. Looks like we're walking a bit further here. Let's have a little look. There's definitely some evidence here of the ground being a bit lower down through here. I think we're definitely on the old alignment here. There's a lot of rubbish that's been obviously tipped in here. Well, here it looks like we have a little bit of a bench or a seat made out of an old balance beam. I don't think there was any balance beams in this area. Obviously brought here, so it's been sawn in half and one bit stacked on top of the other. Unless the stop lock was down this end. Perhaps I've got that all wrong. Perhaps they did put one in down here. Well, look at that. There's the other one, also cut in half by the looks, one piece stacked on top of the other. I'm not quite sure. Folding wedges, Jim Partridge. Oh, is that what that is? A folding wedge. I'm not quite sure what a folding wedge is. Well, I did a little research when I got back to the boat, and I found that those folding benches, as they're called by Jim Partridge, were built in 1998 as artwork, inspired by lock gates. And here we have the Longford Engine public house. Well, we're now at the end of our walk. That bridge onwards was definitely the Coventry Canal only. This area here, just above Bridge 10, would have been where the join was actually made between the Coventry and the Oxford Canal. And the Oxford Canal would have come in roughly where that hedgerow is, into this basin here. This was originally a basin, I believe, where the Oxford Canal would have ended, and then it was joined on to the Coventry Canal, let's say in 1777. And it ran like that until 1803, when the junction at Hawkesbury Junction was put in. Well, that was my walk of the lost part of the Oxford Canal. Basically no remains of it whatsoever. I didn't know what to expect. After all, it closed in 1803, and I believe it is filled in almost immediately. So that's 220 years ago. No wonder it's just full of trees now. But oh well. It got me off the boat and it got a lovely little walk in. We had a look at some trees and sort of learnt a bit of history on the way. You just never know what you're going to see on these little trips. Sometimes, like today, it was basically nothing. Other times you find all sorts of interesting things. Of course, a big thank you goes out there to all my subscribers, Patreon supporters, PayPal supporters, Super Thanks supporters, you name it. However you support the channel, I really do appreciate it. And don't forget, if you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe and hit that old bell notification button. That way YouTube will inform you every time I upload a new video, especially if you also click the all notifications button. Well, that just leaves me to say thank you very much for watching. Trevor out.